ngigezwe ngibenhle egazini lakho.
Let's pray. We want to thank you, Heavenly Father, for the Sabbath, and we want to especially thank you for this service. We enter into it knowing that you are with us. We are inviting your presence from now until the end of it. Father, teach us one thing, that all of us must be prepared to sow in tears, but to reap with joy. In Christ's name, amen.
I greet the saints in the wonderful name of our Lord and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I greet the saints in the name of our Lord and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Much better. Thank you. At this point in time, I would just want to... Today we could not take all the names of the visitors, so I only have just one. But then I will also request that those, if it's your first time here at Kempton Park, after reading this name, I would also request that you also stand so that the church can give you a resounding welcome. The only name that we've got our father, our grandfather, it's Ubaba Majova from Botswana. Would request that he stands. And then, amen. Can also the other visitors, if we've got other visitors, can you please stand so that the church can see you? Amen. What do we say to them, church? With that, we are saying, please feel welcome, be at home. And if you are interested, you can also come and join us for lunch in the afternoon. Amen. And then our announcement for today, I'm not sure if this one has been announced, but all men, including the boys, you are requested to stay behind after divine service. And then all the kids that did not get their books on the package, please see Mama Khele. And then on the 29th of November to the 1st of December, we are going to be having our Amon retreat. It's going to be happening at Magaliesberg. And then the amount is 1,300, I'm correct? Yes. And then the balance, the deposit is 500, and then the balance should be paid before October 31. And then all those who do not get all those who were here for the preacher's training, or if you are interested to get the package, please come with a USB as well with a 100 Rand. That 100 Rand is going to be going to support the pastor who was here, the student pastor, Pastor Njacha, who is at Helderberg. And then the following family is not around, and the following families are not around. We've got the Elder Masango family is not around, and also Babu Mulachisi and the wife. And then next week, Wednesday, again, we are going to be going to visit the counselor. It's in Terenia. And then on Friday, we are going to be going to the Ntombelas. And then on the 28th of next week, Sunday, we are going to be having our board meeting. So all board members are requested to be there. On the 3rd of August, we are going to be having our church business meeting. And then also on that day, same day, we are going to be having a head count of all members. And then the afternoon program is as follows. We are going to be having Bible study for the children at 2 o'clock. And then it will be followed by the presentation from the pastor at 2:30. And then progressive classes will come at 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. May the Lord bless you. Amen.
We'd like to greet the church in the name of our Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. We seem to be a bit cold today, but it's okay. It's fine. It's very cold outside. It's fine. But we have visitors as well. Amen. So let's show visitors that we can have some good church today. Amen. Let us take our hymnals and we use hymn number 74 to start our program. Hymn number 74. Let us stand up as we sing the song.
Sihlwanyelwa indlwanyela yokulunga two. Sihlwanyelwa indlwanyela yokulunga ekuseni nemini nantambama sisimele isikhathi sokuvuna sizothokoza sithwele izinyanda sithwele inyanda sithwele inyanda sizothokoza sithwele izinyanda sithwele inyanda sithwele inyanda sizothokoza sithwele izinyanda sihlwanyela elaneni nenthunzini asesabi ingungu yobusika sizowuqeda phambili umsebenzi sizothokoza sithwele izinyanda sithwele inyanda sithwele inyanda sizothokoza sithwele izinyanda sithwele inyanda sithwele inyanda sizothokoza sithwele izinyanda sihlwanyelela inkosi yenyembezi sizoni sikhathe ziningi sekuphelile ukukhala sombona sizothokoza sithwele izinyanda sithwele inyanda sithwele inyanda sizothokoza sithwele izinyanda sithwele inyanda sithwele inyanda. One more time sizothokoza sithwele izinyanda bringing in the sheaves we shall all rejoicing bringing in the sheaves sithwele inyanda sithwele inyanda sizothokoza sithwele izinyanda.
The church may be seated. I greet the church in Christ's wonderful name. Amen.
Amen.
Good morning, saints.
Amen.
For our offertory reading this morning, we'll make use of two verses from Matthew chapter 25. Matthew 25 chapter is 25 there. We'll make use of two verses from that passage. I'm here to speak regarding stewardship and tithe and offering. So you will excuse me if my focus is not so much on your spiritual. I believe the pastor would take care of that. But yeah, there is a place for money in the house of God. Amen? Amen. Ningat amen if I'm lying. Ne? There is a place for money in the house of God. Amen? Amen. Amen. Before I go there, allow me to read fundamental belief number 9. Not rather fundamental belief, but baptismal vow number 9. Baptismal vow number 9 says, I believe in church organization. That's what we vowed for those who are members of the church. I believe in church organization. And it is my purpose to support the church by my tithes and offerings and by my personal effort and influence. And then we raised our hands and they said, "Itin amen man vumanati amen." And then we put you in the water. That's the case, right? Amen. Yeah. And for those who are not yet baptized, unfortunately or fortunately, you will also go through that process where we say, you believe to support financially, you will need to raise up your hand if you believe. And then we can put you in the water. If you don't believe that the Church of God needs money, then we might need to do some extra lessons with you as to why there is a need for money. Matthew chapter 25, we'll look at verse 22. No, let's leave 22. Let's go to 23. 23, and then we'll also read verse 30. So 23 and verse 30, Matthew 25 is the chapter. His Lord said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord." This is Christ speaking regarding the parable of the talents. But in verse 30, the tables have reversed. This one is saying, "And cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." As always, may the Lord add a blessing to the reading of his word. Amen. Amen. We've been reading as men counsels on stewardship, the book from the Spirit of Prophecy. And one thing that we picked up is that matters of finance, like I said, I'm speaking on finances. Matters of finance, in as much as we think they're foreign to our spiritual life, are actually intertwined. You cannot separate the one from the other. In fact, stewardship, I remember one of our elders when we were still in Egypt loved to say, "It is all of me in response to all of God." In other words, God has given his all. What do I say about his all? So what came out clearly is that when we think we do not have an obligation to give to the church our finances, be it in tithes and offerings, we are not robbing God. And that's not in contradiction to Malachi chapter 3 rather. That's not in contradiction, but actually in support. Why is that? Because what we are actually doing is robbing ourselves of eternal life. So in robbing God, you're actually robbing yourself. Because the well done, good and faithful servant is said to the one who was active. Active both in matters of the church, be it wherever they needed, being a preaching, be it in serving, but also active financially in support. Well done, good and faithful servant was the injunction from the Lord. And the other counsel was that sometimes people feel that I have too little to return to the Lord. You see, giving back to God is exactly that. Giving back. Which means if you do English, if you're giving back, which means it had come from where? From the person you're giving. That's what English says. So if you're giving back, it means God has already given you something. God is not asking from us saints what we have not received from him. So if you say you have nothing to give to God, basically you're saying, God, it's your fault. Look at me, I possess nothing that is yours. So what can I give you? So this morning, friends, as we consider our tithe and our offering and our return this morning. Number one, remember it is a salvational matter. It is finance, but it affects your salvation. Number two, remember that everyone possesses to give. We're not expected to give more than we have received. We're expected to give in proportion to what we have received. So if you've been given little, God only expects little from you. If you've been given much, God also expects much from you. Injalo le ndaba, ne? And then finally, the injunction, well done, good and faithful servant, can be yours, can be mine. The choice is not with somebody else, it's with you. May we kneel as we pray. Our Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning, thanking you for your grace, for we are here by your grace and as a result of your sacrifice. We're grateful this morning that sinners and worthless beings that had broken your heart, such as us, deserved a second chance in your eyes. And we are grateful that you saw us worthy to give not just something to redeem us, but to give the very best to redeem us. Father, we are praying for the heart of Jesus this morning, the heart that says not just anything can do, but the very best that I possess. May we be moved, not by words, Father, but by your Spirit, to do that which is best for you. Not only now in this service, but in our lives as we go forward. So that on that last day, when you come in the clouds of heaven, the injunction might be said even of us, well done, good and faithful servant. Thank you this morning. We are grateful even for the offering that is to be given. We pray and bless the work that it shall do, Father, for we know that the work is singular for the furtherment of your kingdom and for the salvation of souls. May that be realized from this offering. This we pray in Christ's wonderful name. Amen.
Let's do number 24. Number 24. Ngiya kufisa nje ngcwele ngcwele akukho angipha uthula ngiya kufisa Nkosi izikhathi zonke ngibusise msindisi ngize Bless me now, my Savior, I come. fulfill. And I need thee, oh, I need thee. And every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior. I come to thee. Give Sankosi izikhathi zonke kibu sisemsindisi ngise. One more time. Sankosi izikhathi zonke ungibu sisemsindisi ngise kuwe.
Shall we thank the Lord? Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, we thank you for the privilege of partaking in the ministry of offering. And as we worship you in our tithes and offerings, we are trusting you for a blessing upon us. Indeed, it is a promise from your word that those who do such will be blessed. And so we are expecting those windows to be open, and we are short of room for blessings. Thank you, Father, for that privilege. And as we prayed again earlier, that may this work that it shall partake in, Father, may it be already blessed of you, that even though it might be little in the world's eyes, we believe little is much when you are in it. Thank you, Father, for your grace. In Christ's name we pray, amen.
Sanbonan. We greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Friends here, they don't listen, they are busy. We love to observe the protocol accordingly. You will join me in this service. Mamfundis Nkambule, Mamfundis Soket. You'll be doing the prayers. I'm being assigned to. I'm sorry, Chief. I'm being assigned to make a special prayer. And a special prayer means everything and anything. Amen. Because we've got different needs. We have suffered differently during the week. We've got different wishes. And mostly, we've got a project that we need to, which is ahead of us. And it needs to be completed before the end of year. So, James says, and we greet you, friends, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Right. Expecting great things. We are expecting to make great harvest. Expecting to do a branch there, or a company or a church. Now, in expectation to be healed, also it's an expectation to have that. Now, we need to have far less confidence in what men can do. Are we together? and far more confidence what God can do for every believing soul. In the morning, the pastor has alluded to some things that we say, or we have confirmed ourselves that I cannot do this. But on the contrary, it is not. He that God longs to have you reach after him by faith. Right. There's an element that everyone has to put to reach God by faith. And this faith is the one that carries everyone. Whatever expectation that he has, it must come to fulfillment. Without faith, we've got problem. Now, he longs to have you, to have your expectation, to have you expect great things from him. We all expect great things from God: healing, giving job, security, protection, and so forth and so forth. We expect from God. And God knows that we are longing to have a great expectation from him also. He longs to give you understanding in temporal as well as spiritual matters. There's a problem when you come here, because even the pastor in the morning has also alluded, we are 40 years, 80 years, 50 years in church, but we are as 1 year in church, we are new. There are things that we could not do, and there are things that we don't know, and there are things that some of us, we don't think it's supposed to have happened in church. As long as we've brought the heart without faith, he, that is God, can sharpen the intellectual, whatever your thoughts in your mind, can sharpen it. Because they're not coming without faith. He can give a tact, timing, tact. Modis, tact. I was about to check. Tact. And then skill. If you're not skilled, you cannot do skillful things and be successful. This is what God can give. We need to depend in God. Finally, put your talents into the work. Put your talents into the work. Umfundisi today ngazothi beshaye assessment yabona bes-assessa sinjani, and he find us one thing. We jump the gun, we do things this way and that way, but we're learning. Tact will be there. Ask God for wisdom, and he will give it. Will be given to you. That is Christ Object Lesson 146. These things is what God has given us, but it's us. He expects us to long for them from him. We must not trust our own intellect. I can pray. Maybe sometimes witnessing is, there was one guy we have prayed for. I don't know whether, we prayed for. Yeah. And he became healed. Hallelujah. And he went back to his country. But he's not a Seventh-day Adventist. But he believed, he received saving grace. Amen. There are people in our midst, that they have needs of spiritual healing, needs that their beloved ones could be healed. Among others, I don't forget Babu Stole, among others, Umam Pefile, and myself and others. And Mamu Mfundisi, we thank you very much and we thank God that you are up and you are here today. Mamu Nkambule. Thank you very much. We thank God. The power is still there. God's power is still there. Can raise the dead and the sick. Only when we've got faith. We are going to pray. Abu Mamfundis, they will help me in prayer. They will pray. I don't say who first, but give them the mic.
Siyabonga Nkosi yethu nothando sezulwini sikubonga ithuba elihle kangaka osiphalona this morning Jehova nothando ukuthi as the church size Nkosi yami sizoni sinje kodwa siguqa Nkosi yami ezinyaweni zakho Jehova wethu nomusa sicela Nkosi yethu ukuthi ube nathi usithethelele Jehova wethu umntana wakho sekakhulumile nathi Jehova usibonile ukuthi silekha ukholo Jehova nothando ngoba wena uthe singenako ukholo uNkulunkulu kunzima ukupliza wena Yesu wethu sangesele ngenye ilanga Nkosi yami wena Yesu wathi noba ningaba nokholo lungabancane njengale mustard seed Yesu wethu ningathi nisusa indaba uNkulunkulu wethu we have as this church a project osidikeza yona phambi kwethu Yesu wethu nothando ukuthi sihambe siyokusebenza kule ndawo yase Northam Jehova nothando siyakhuleka ngendlela ekhethekileyo this morning ukuthi sandisele Nkosi yami ukukholwa Jehova thona amandla usiphe amandla Yesu wethu ngoba wena ufuna Nkosi yami abantu abavumayo Jehova wethu you don't call the qualified Jehova wethu usifuna sinjalo and you qualify us for your work Yesu wethu nothando umkhulu yamangalisa siyazi Nkosi yami nangelithuba as long as Nkosi yami sithi sikhona Jehova wena uzathi usebenzise and in a special way Lord we would like to thank you very much for abantu abethe begula Yesu wethu wabaphakamisa emandlalweni ogula abanye Nkosi yami sibakhulekele kodwa baphilanga Yesu wethu nothando wabavumela ukuthi mabalale ubuthongo bokufa Yesu wethu nothando kodwa thina Nkosi yethu sasiphe ithuba lokuthi masiphile emhlabeni Jehova we believe that this is for a purpose Jehova yomsebenzi wakho ubeke phezulu kwezandla zethu nasemehlweni ethu Jehova ukuthi masiwenze singazenzi izaba ishilo Nkosi yami ingoma ithi ungazenzi izaba ukhona umsebenzi before ufika Nkosi yami ngamaFezulu you expect us to do this work all members Jehovah are witnesses we heard this morning sikhumbuse Nkosi yami leqiniso ukuze siliphile silenze amandla akho Nkosi yami singakhona ulenza ibane inkonzo ethi ziqhubeke Jehova sizawuva izwi lakho Yesu wethu izwi lakho malifike enhlizweni zethu ezithambileyo ezilungele Nkosi yami ukuliva Nkosi yami singaneli nje ukuliva kodwa Nkosi yami silenze ngegameni namandla kaJesu umfelo wethu Siyabonga Nkosi yami manje uze phakathi. Amen.
Mama Kambule will pray.
Baba wethu osezulwini, yisenkosi yethu Jesu Kristu, mdali wezulu nomhlaba nolwandle nemithombo yamanzi. Ekseni Nkosi yami, siyakubonga njengoNkulunkulu wethu. Sibonga Nkosi yami lesabatha elihle kangaka. Okhulumile Nkulunkulu ukuthi Nkosi everybody Nkosi yami ufree Nkulunkulu wami othandekayo on the Sabbath day. Nkosi yami siyakubonga, siyakudumisa because we are equal today. Nkulunkulu wami othandekayo siyakubonga ngoba akekho Nkosi yami ofana nawe. uNkulunkulu osithandayo, uNkulunkulu onamandla nanoma sinjani. Nkosi yami ekseni sibonga Nkosi amazwi akho asikhuthaze ngendlela ebalulekile. Sibonga Nkosi yami ukuthi wena uNkulunkulu wethu osinakekelayo. Nkosi yami siyabonga ekseni ukuthi Nkosi wena uhlala nathi wherever we are. Nkosi yami lapho abantwana bakho bekhona wena you know them. Nkulunkulu wami othandekayo ekseni my God and my Father. Nkosi yami coming before the throne of mercy. Nkulunkulu wami othandekayo, we are praying for those Nkosi yami who are sick. Nkulunkulu wami othandekayo, abanye basemakhaya, abanye basezibhedlela. Abanye Nkosi yami ababoni ukuthi ilanga liphumile noma ilanga liyashona. Kodwa Nkosi wena unabo lapho bekhona. Siyathandaza ke Nkosi yami ekseni ukuthi yiba nabo abantwana bakho. May your righteous hand, my God and my Father, touch them wherever they are. Nkosi yami baphile Nkosi emzimbeni nasemphefumulweni nasengqondweni. Nkosi yami siyakubonga, siyakudumisa ekseni. Sithi Nkosi ukukhala kwethu wena uyakuzwa njengoba ushilo Nkosi yami. We appreciate Nkulunkulu wami othandekayo everything that you done for us. Nkosi yami sithi Nkulunkulu wami othandekayo, abanye Nkosi bashonelwe Nkulunkulu wami othandekayo. Your people are mourning, your people are crying around the world. Nkosi yami, may the Holy Spirit comfort them, my God and my Father. Nkosi yami siyathandaza baba lapho bekhona ubathinte. Ubanikeze Nkosi yami amandla Nkosi. Ukwamukela Nkosi yami lesimo esibhlungu nesinzima kangaka. Nkosi yami ekseni uthe umntwana wakho Nkosi size ngumthwalo owahlukahlukene. Nkulunkulu wami othandekayo, abanye Nkosi yami bafuna imisebenzi. Abanye Nkosi yami sisuka emakhaya Nkosi yami, abanye Nkosi yami ba-abusiwe. Nkulunkulu wami othandekayo, sibekela Nkosi yami abantwana bakho bonke. Nkulunkulu wami olungileyo, sometimes emakhaya wethu kuba ne-abuse. Kodwa Nkosi yami ngesabatha sibonakale Nkosi yami si-equal sithandana. Baba osezulwini babona umusa sihawukele ekseni Nkosi. Usihawukele Nkosi yami ukuthi uma sizwa izwi lakho Nkulunkulu wami siliphile emakhaya wethu nabantwana bethu Nkosi yami bakubone through us. Nkulunkulu wami othandekayo bese bayaglorify in heaven. Nkulunkulu onomusa uyakhuluma Nkosi ukuthi Nkosi yami masiphume sivangele Nkosi bomakhelwane bethu. Sometimes Nkosi yami sine fear Nkulunkulu wami othandekayo ukuthi Nkosi sishare nabo izwi lakho. Sitholakala Nkosi yami sijumpa siye endaweni ezikude. Sishiya Nkosi yami ama-families wethu, sishiya bomakhelwane bethu. Babona thando yiba nomusa ekseni. Usihawukele Nkosi kuleli suku namhlanje. Uthi wena Nkosi yami your promises are yes and amen. Nkosi siyathandaza ekseni ukuthi iba nomusa ukuthi sonke sizokhonza la Nkosi yami qoqa ingcondo zethu. Zizwe izwi lakho baba osezulwini. Nkosi yami ususe konke okuphithizelayo phakathi kwethu. Because Nkosi we are equal. Nkosi yami mele sibe nesabelo sonke namhlanje uma sikuleli suku lakho elingcwele. Siyakubonga ke Nkosi yami banengceke yakho Nkosi ezothi uNkulunkulu wami olungileyo isondle namhlanje. Sicela Nkosi ukuba sondleke bese izwi lakho liyasebenza empilweni zethu. Siyathandaza baba ngoJesu kuze kube phakathi. Amen.
Amen. At this time, we will call all the kids to come for the children's story. Today's children's story will be told by Miss Ayabonga Kunen.
abantwana abancane bathanda umhlengi baligugu kuJehova owabo yenzi njengazoyi kanyezi ukhanye lo muntu ene obuhleba yokhanya bakazi mune.
I greet the church in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Today's lesson is about Elijah. Can I please have someone to pray for us? I appeal. Let's close our eyes and pray. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive all those who trespass against us. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Can all of us open our Bibles? 3 people are going to read for us verses. The first verse is 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 5 to 7. Can someone read for us? First Kings chapter 17, verse 5 to 7.
I'll read in your hearing. So he went and did according unto the word of the Lord, for he went and dwelt by the brook Cherith that is before Jordan. And the ravens brought him bread and flesh in the morning, and bread and flesh in the evening. And he drank of the brook. And it came to pass after a while that the brook dried up, because there had been no rain in the land.
The second verse is 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 15 to 16.
And she went and did according to the saying of Elijah, and she and he and her house did it many days. And the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by Elijah.
And the last verse is 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 24.
And the woman said to Elijah, Now by this I know that thou art a man of God, and that the word of the Lord in thy mouth is truth.
So now I'm going to read the story, tell the story to you guys. One day, long time ago, there was a prophet named Elijah. What do you think a prophet is?
I think a prophet is a person who God sends, like a preacher, to tell people the word of God and tell them what they must do. A
prophet is someone who God speaks through visions and dreams.
Yes, a prophet is someone, a man or a woman who tells what God has said that will happen a few years later. Today's story is about a prophet. His name is Elijah. God told the prophet Elijah to go and tell King Ahab that there's not going to be rain in the land. But then it was difficult because King Ahab wanted to kill Elijah. So then Elijah listened to God and told the king. After he told the king, God told Elijah to go and run away and go to another land, and he must head east to go to the brook. He commanded the birds to feed him, and he will drink from the brook. And then when Elijah went and did what God said, the birds did come and feed him bread and meat in the morning and bread and meat in the evening. And he drank from the brook. And then when the brook got, a few days later, the brook got dry. So then God told him to go to a nearby village and he'll find a widow there picking up sticks. So then Elijah listened. Then when he got there, he found a woman picking up sticks, and then he asked the woman that, can I please go and fetch me some water? While the woman was going to fetch him some water, he said again, can I please get me some bread too? Then the woman responded and said that she only has a handful of flour and a little bit of oil, and she was going to bake that for him, her and her son, so that they can eat and die. After that, Elijah just said, don't worry, just make for me the bread and bring me some water, and then make for your son. Then there'll be plenty more for the other days until the rain comes back. Then the woman believed in Elijah and did what he said, and that really happened. What Elijah said, it happened as it is. Then Elijah was staying with the widow. Then a few years later, then the son died. The widow's son died. Then the widow said to Elijah, why are you here to remind me about my sins and make my son die? So then Elijah took the widow's son from the mother and took him to the upper room. Then he prayed to God and prayed, and then he said, God, please bring back the boy's life. Then the boy rose up again. Then when the boy rose up, Elijah took the boy to the mother. So then when the mother saw the boy, then she said that you are now I know you the true man of God, and the words that you speak is the truth. So today, what have you learned from this story?
You must always help other kids.
Who else?
That you must always obey God. That we must believe in God.
Listen when God speaks. So that's basically what the story is about. So then, I'll say the lesson that you have learned today. It wasn't easy. I was gonna kill him, and sometimes it's not easy for us to do what God wants. So then you must just trust in God. Then He will protect us. The second lesson is that sometimes we think we are too young and we have too little to do what God wants. Just give it to God so He can multiply it. And the third lesson is that God is a God of miracles. He told the ravens to feed Elijah, and he commanded the widow to give Elijah some food, and he could raise up the boy from the dead. So then, So today, the story is basically about God and what He wants us to do, so it can be a testimony for other people. So, who would like to pray for us?
Let us close our eyes and pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for everything you have done for us. Thank you for this holy Sabbath. Thank you for Thank you for everything. Thank you for this beautiful lesson. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
We love your story, yes we do. We thank you, yes we do. So don't forget to come again, to tell us more. We love your story, yes we do. We thank you, yes we do. So don't forget to come again, oh yes, to tell us more.
Amen. Sometimes some of life's biggest lessons we get from little children. We are busy waiting for the pastor to give us a bigger weight, but for one of us, their biggest message of inspiration might be from the little lady, more than it might be from the pastor. Not taking away from the pastor anything yet. My job right now is to introduce everyone up front. The brother who gave us the offertory reading is Brother Derek Viriri. He is father to many, but he has only one. He is the grandfather of us here at church. Amen. Amen. They are married. Amen. Yes. Amen. And then, then it's me. Okay. I am Jabu Kanti. I am not alone as well. My wife is sitting somewhere there at the back. She's afraid I might ask her to stand up, but I'm going to disappoint her. Amen. And then our preacher for today is Pastor Sogitsa. The first time I met Pastor Sogitsa, it was not under normal conditions. It was at a camp at Taung in 1999. I was a young man. I had too many. Is the TOC director of Sabbath School, VOP, Personal Ministries, and Music. Amen. And I did not write that down. No, it's from memory. When he stands up, we will give him a very big amen. He's not alone, Bazalwane. He is with Mrs. Swekeza. She's looking at me. She hopes that I will not ask her to stand up. Mrs. Swekeza, please stand up so that the church can see. Amen. I know I disappointed you. I always disappoint people. My wife knows that best. And then we're going to have a special item. There's a special group that we have. I should also extend our welcome to the Mekwa family. Amen. While we were still at Babylon, they used to be our members. Amen. And we also have Moteo. When I was seeing all the kids coming up front for the story, I remember the days when it was them who used to come for stories. Not long time ago, yeah? Not long. In fact, I have a few embarrassing pictures that I would like to share when they are a bit older. For now, before the pastor stand up, we will ask Paco to come and give us a special item.
Jengasoni kanyesi kukhanya umcene obuhleba yokhanya fakazi munle abantwana
There is a balm, there is a balm, there is a balm, there is a balm to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. Sometimes I feel discouraged and think my work's in vain. But then the Holy Spirit revives my soul again. Sick soul. If you cannot preach like Peter, if you cannot pray like Paul, just tell the love of Jesus and say He died for all.
Hallelujah. Amen. I want to check if we did welcome our friends there at the back. Hello, friends. Hallelujah. Amen. I hope they are members. Are they members? No, they are visitors. No, but there should be members tonight. Please. Hallelujah. Thank you so much. But brethren, I'm a very proud grandfather of this lady. What's her name, by the way? Ayabonga. Yeah, I'm a proud grandfather of this lady because my cousin, who is the uncle to the father to that one, is married to my sister. So now that you are and all kids who are going to make stories every other Sabbath, because I believe you rotate. Ne? Hallelujah. Thank you so much. Brethren, we are continuing with from where we left off in the morning. This time I want us to consider the subject of sowing, to sow. To sow. The subject of sowing. And I want to, from the onset, mention to all of us, young and old, that if you have accepted Christ as your personal Savior and Lord, you have no choice but to be a sower. You have no choice. You can't say, I choose not to sow, but I want Christ, but I don't want his sowing. You can't. Because being a Christian, being a saint who has been forgiven, remember, we are all here gathered as saints who have a past. Amen, Brother Kanti? Yes, sir. We are saints, all of us here, with a past. Hallelujah. But we are also sinners with a brighter future. Amen. Hallelujah. Yes, so I'm saying you cannot choose not to sow. No. Being a Christian involves the act of sowing. Right? Now, but today I'm talking about sowing in a certain context, particular context. The context is that of deliverance. You can only sow if you have an experience of being delivered. You can't sow. You will not see it important to go and sow so that you can reap later with joy if you don't have an experience of deliverance. If you are not saved from some exile situation, you don't have an experience. So we don't expect you to then be worried about sowing. If you come to church and be satisfied to sing and to close eyes when somebody is praying and to listen to the sermon and then to rush back home to go and eat your quota, then we won't be surprised. We won't be surprised. You are doing what is expected of you. But if you have connected with Christ, there's no point. There's no reason. There's no way of being excused from the act of sowing. Now, there is a story told about John Payton. John Payton is a missionary. Please, I never met this John Payton. I just read it somewhere. So even the island where he was going to be a missionary in, I was seeing it for the first time on the book. The island is called New Hebrides Island. I don't know where that is. But this man was a missionary moving from North America somewhere to go to be a missionary with his family. Wife, children. And then when they got there, of course, they have to find a place. They found a place to stay. But the people there are still very primitive. So they wanted to actually kill these guys, kill the whole family. So one time they decided, no, let's go and surround the house where these people stay, so that anyone who comes out to look for water, start with him or with her. We finish them. But then John Payton and his family realized that these guys from the village are there and they are carrying heavy things, pangas and all these things that, you go to fight with. So they were there outside waiting, but they were not coming in. And so they began to worry and shiver. And then he called the family. They held hands to pray to God for God to really save them from these villagers. And after praying, they went to sleep, but still worried, always checking whether they are now near the door or what. But they were still standing there until the morning. And in the morning, when they wake up, they see these guys coming in, they are going back where they came from. And later, some months later, by the way, one of the people who were there was the very chief of the place. Then the chief decides months later to give his life to Christ. And he is accepted, there is joy, and some other members of the village, they also become Christians. And then John Payton finds a chance to ask the chief, what happened that night? What happened that night? Then the chief says, oh, you mean that we were coming for you, we were going to kill you. But we saw huge men dressed in white with also pangas, protecting the house. And they were more than us. And so we were trying to wait for them to go away. But they were there looking at us. So in the morning we decided, no, we can't win here. We went back. But John Payton did not see angels. God was protecting him. The enemy was seeing the angels. And the enemy could not come in. Dear friends, then in that very instant, John Payton stood up in front of the whole crowd to say, please give me 30 minutes. I want to give gratitude to my God. I want to thank God that he delivered us. We were not aware. We just prayed the normal prayer, but he was there protecting us. Dear friends, I'm saying if you don't have the experience of being delivered, then you can do the games that you are always playing of not sowing. Let's read together. We're reading from Psalm 126. Psalm 126. Psalm 126. Psalm 126. It's a very short chapter. I will read the whole chapter. It's a very short chapter. Please, it's not 119, it's 126. Amen. Yeah. Only 6 verses. Only 6. Now listen to the writer here. My title here, I don't know about yours, mine says, A Joyful Return to Zion. I don't know about yours. Verse 1 says, when the Lord brought back the captivity of Zion, we were like those who dream. When the Lord finally brought us back from Babylon, we thought we were dreaming. Verse 2, then our mouth was filled with laughter and our tongue with singing. Then they said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. Verse 3, the Lord has done great things for us, and we are glad. Hallelujah. Then verse 4, bring back not captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. This is a prayer. Verse 5, those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. Verse 6, he who continually goes forth weeping, bearing seeds for sowing, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. I'm asking God to bless the reading of his word. In Christ's name, amen. Dear friends, we're talking today about the sowing saint, the saint that is busy with sowing. And dear friends, this psalm is written, you already heard from the first 3 verses. The context there, the background there is, here is God doing a miraculous thing, something that people did not expect. People thought they were going to be there for a longer time. Remember, it is God who allowed for his children to be taken into captive into Babylon. It's him. I think I still remember him saying this to Habakkuk. He says to Habakkuk, Habakkuk, wena. Habakkuk says, but Lord, how long are we going to wait for this injustice to happen in the nation, your people? How long are we going to look at this corruption and all these things? People going wayward from what you had said to us. And then the Lord says, no, don't worry. I'm sending the Chaldeans, the Babylonians. They will take the nation to captive. And then Habakkuk says, how, Lord? How do you solve a problem of your own special people, the righteous, by using the wicked who don't even pray to you? How do you resolve our problem as people who are better than others? I mean, we are Israelites. Why do you use pagans who pray to the sun to come and punish us? And then the Lord says, Ela, you can't cross-question me, Wena. Hey, the Lord is in his holy temple. Amen. Let all the earth keep silent. Yeah. Just keep quiet. Yeah. Stop asking me. I'm going to resolve the problem that you raise first. Don't ask and say, how do you correct right with wrong? Dear friends, the background is that remember how the children of Israelites, when they are now there in Babylon, remember how they cried to God. If you want to know their agony, just go revise Psalm 137. By the rivers of Babylon. There we sat down and we wept when we remember Zion. Dear friends, now the Lord has come to rescue his people. He is now delivering them back to their land of promise. Dear friends, and after the deliverance, you hear them saying, let's sing and rejoice. Let's have exuberant joy, for the Lord has delivered us. So the first part of the Psalm 1 to 3, verse 1 to 3, it's a section of praise. They are praising God for deliverance, because when God comes into a situation, he does not leave it the same. Are you with me, dear friends? When the Lord responds finally to our cries, he does not leave us the same way before he came. Now, dear friends, I am here to tell you that a sowing saint starts by experiencing gratitude because they have just been delivered. Am I talking to someone here? You can't sow until you start by having the attitude of gratitude. To thank God for the things he has done for you. And to be so grateful that you don't even own some part of the things that have happened to you. You don't even say, I've been working. Now I'm 25 years in the work. That's why I have 3 cars. Because I invested. We are full of spoiling the things of God. We want to be also part of those who made things happen. And yet it is only God. Dear friends, this morning I'm saying, if you don't have an experience of thanking God for something special that he has done for you, and I don't mean what almost happened during the week when you were crossing there in the busy street and a taxi almost hit you and you jumped and just energy. Yeah, I don't mean that. I don't mean the promotion that you got last year. I'm not referring to the newborn baby that you were able to carry home from hospital. I'm not referring to the grocery that you are able to buy and you say, oh, even though it's heavy, but thanks God we have food. No. Please go, man. Please, my dear Christian, go and revise the greatest thing that God has done for you and for me and for all of us here. Go read Ephesians chapter 2. Are you with me? Start from verse 1. You will hear that we were hopeless. We were such hopeless cases. When God decided to intervene by sending Christ, his son, to come and save us, we had no one. We had nothing. We were destined to die. Oh, by the way, Adam and Eve were supposed to die instantly after sinning. God could have chosen. These useless things. Come. Where are you? Come. Finish with you. Where is Eve? Come. We were supposed to not to even exist. But God, even before sin entered, God in his foreknowledge, he saw that we were going to need salvation. He saw that we were going to need grace. Oh, then that chapter 2 of Ephesians says, for by grace you have been saved through faith. And even that faith does not come from you. It is from God. So that no one must boast and say, I'm a better Christian than this one and that one and that one. Because they don't drink, that one drinks, but they also steal somewhere. Are we still together? And I'm saying sowing for the master starts with being grateful for the deliverance. Now, every one of us here, we were exiles. Oh, maybe there's one who's still remaining. By the way, the exiles of 126 Psalm, not everybody came back. Some remained in Babylon because they were comfortable. Are you with me? They were comfortable. Like the exiles of South Africa who ran away because of apartheid. Some of them don't want to come back. They just come and visit and they go back to where they fled to during those dark times. Even here, some did not come back. So I'm saying, all of us who are Christians, you have accepted Christ, hey man, let me tell you something. You are an exile who has been delivered. I want to see a hand of someone who says, Mfundisi, accept me. I'm not delivered. I'm not delivered. I'm not delivered. Please, when you raise your hand, please listen first. Don't raise your hand without hearing. Is there anyone here who says, accept me, Pastor, I'm not delivered? So that we pray for you. You also be part of us and be delivered. So that you are going to live a life of gratitude. Gratitude. You know, gratitude affects everything in your life. When you thank God for the one thing that He did for you, saving you, so that you have a brighter future, you become so thankful. Even when the wife brings the food that you know was bought because of the money you contributed, you still say thank you. Sure. Then listen to me. The second thing, and this is in verse 4. The second thing that a saint who is sowing must do is prayer. First is praise, but second is prayer. Verse 4 is a prayer to me. Verse 4 is a prayer to me. They are saying in verse 4, oh Lord, bring back our captivity. Oh Lord, as the streams in the south, let the captivities or the captivity that we were in be released, and let people come in their millions and millions and tens of thousands. Let them stream like a flowing river, a stream. Hey, is there someone listening here? Hey, Please, please, brethren, we are in a sermon. We are in a worship service. I'm expecting someone to say amen somewhere. Amen. Dear friends, the second thing is prayer. You praise God for the one thing that he has done, which nobody could do for you. Not even your parents could do for you. I always say, when I talk about this, I say, you know, if I have relatives who are in inmates right now, who are in jail. I go and visit them together with my other members of the family. You know, when we get there, we will stay maybe 45 minutes, hour, and from there, then we take out from the plastic some bananas, some Colgate. And say, okay, bye-bye, see you. We leave him there. We don't sleep with him there. We don't say, can you go? We will take your place. You start by praising if you are going to be a sower. Then you become a prayerful person. You pray not only just for anything. There are people who pray. They pray, but it's a list. Listen to me. It's a list of needs and wants. People just pray and, God, please give me a better car. Please give me a wife, a husband. No, another one, this one. People pray. It's a list. It's a list. I want this, I want that. Oh, Lord. Oh, take me higher. I want an increment. Oh, Lord. Protect my grandmother who's there in the Eastern Cape. Is crossing alone in the street. Oh, Lord. Oh, thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. People say nothing about the prayer that is in verse 4. I don't know if you heard the prayer in verse 4. The person is saying, release more people from bondage. Not only us. Can we have more and more people experiencing the deliverance? Not only us. The prayer is about, oh Lord, send us as reapers. We want to go out and sow, so that later you will make it a point that the harvest is ready. And then we go back to harvest. Send us. In other words, the prayer of verse 4 is saying, go ye therefore. Lord, release us. That's the principle, the first principle that I read in the morning of Ellen White, when she says, the first thing that Christ did was he mingled with people. He mingled. Mingling is go ye therefore. Mingling is to leave our comfort zone. Hey, brethren, are you with me? Leave this building. Leave. Go out. Go house to house. Meet the people. Befriend them. Know what their needs are. Hey, if it's possible, when you go around there, you will notice maybe there are people who are standing in the corners, waiting for a buggy to pass. Those are men. I have a lot of them there in Orange Grove. Every day I know I must have an extra 20 rand, because I know someone is going to say, Pastor, hey man, bread, just bread. They are waiting for someone to pick them up, to go and paint, to go and do anything, just for getting money, because they are struggling, they are unemployed. Dear friends, that is the prayer. The prayer is, oh Lord, release more from captivity. And the people in captivity cannot come in their numbers in millions and thousands when we are not prepared to obey the Great Commission, which says, go ye, meet them where they are. Don't invite a secular person to church, because their minds are not thinking about church. They don't think about God and the Bible and praying every day. All they are thinking about is, where am I going to get my next slice of bread? All they're thinking about is, my wife is troubling me. My husband is hey, I want to leave him. I don't know how, because he's going to run after me. They are thinking about the immediate needs, not what they need the most. What they need the most is the spiritual. If they can come to Christ, Christ will solve all. But when we approach them so that they can come in their numbers, their prayer may be fulfilled. We need to go to them and mingle with them and meet their needs. If it means we must go to, if there's a school there, if there are schools in that area, then we need to go and take assembly time. Go and talk to the principals. Some of us here must go. Offer motivational talks from the Bible. Some of us must go there, pray for the kids. Many of the kids don't even pray. They wake up in the morning like horses. They sleep in the evening because the parents are not prayerful also. There's no one praying. They don't have a spiritual home. So we can start in the clinic if there's a clinic there. Start in the school if there's a school there. Start in the hospital if there's a hospital there. Start in the hotel if there's a hotel there. Start anywhere where there are people. Police station, wherever. The prayer is not about, oh Lord, me. Oh Lord, me. Oh Lord, I want a girlfriend. No. The prayer is about use me, use us, so that not only us must be delivered, but many more who are still remaining must be delivered. So the first is praise. The second is prayer. Then when you are full of praise to God, not praise to men, praise to God and prayer to God for the right thing. Listen to me. We start by, oh Lord, help my children to pass. No, this one says, we are asking you to use us, to be influencers of others, to join us also, and follow you. Then you are only ready after these two. After these two, you are ready to pray for the fulfillment of the promise. There's a promise, dear friends. The promise, read again Matthew 28, verse 18 to 20. It says, all power resides in me, is given unto me. And with that power, I therefore send you. Go ye therefore, and make everyone disciples. Baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Teaching them to observe the things I taught you. Then Jesus says in verse 20, remember, I am with you until when? Until the end of the age. You are not going there alone. You are going with me by your side. I'm the one empowering you. You are my tool. I'm the one doing the work. I'm only using you like I used Moses. I will speak through you. He tried. He said, no, but I'm stammering. He said, no problem. But you will be saying my words. So, dear friends, the promise is there. Christ says, I will be with you. And then the psalmist says there, we must sow in tears. Dear friends, I want to emphasize this. It's not easy to sow. Sowing. I'm not talking about the sowing that you do in your yard, in the back of your... I'm talking about sowing in the hearts of men who are hostile to the things of God. It's just not easy to sow. I will tell you that that experience has actually made me to appreciate the power of God more. That experience which I told you earlier of going for Bible studies alone because no one was prepared to accompany me. No one. Sabbath afternoon, I'm saying 2 by 2. Let's go. I said, no, go alone. I'm busy. My knee. I'm married to an Adventist man. If I come late, he will... So I'm already going home. I'll pray for you on my way home. Everybody, no excuse, everybody. Dear friends, no. God taught me something. That, you see, we rush for number 4. Number 4 is the harvest, remember. We rush for number 4. We skip number 1, number 2, number 3, which are the crucial stages for number 4 to happen. We skip the preparing of the soil. We skip the planting of the seed. We skip even that cultivation where we now are one-on-one Bible study, seated. They are asking questions. We answer them by the Bible. We allow them to also ask questions, but we also instruct on what the Bible says. Dear friends, we skip all this. I've learned the power of God, that we need to really, we must just listen. We must just obey and do things the right way. So I went for the first Bible study. By the way it came about was, I'm just arriving in this place. I'm a new pastor. Finally, the conference has appointed me to replace a pastor who was moving to KZN. And so I'm needing to go and be there, because the people there are saying, we needed 3, but we have 2. Now this one is gone. Replace this one within a week. He must be replaced within a week. So I had to go rushing. And then I arrived there. First Sabbath, I find it's a day for women's ministries. Now I'm so excited. I said, I'm going to preach for you. Don't worry, I'm going to preach for you. I'm your new pastor. I'm your new pastor. And then everybody, hey, look at me. I know, I'm going to preach. Then after lunch, we go 2 by 2. Then nobody wants to go. But I preached a sermon. I don't know where I took that sermon from. Everybody was just, okay, it's fine. Afternoon, no one wants to go. Then, that very evening, there's a funeral. Someone has died. And this person is related to a member here. He's a child of a member. He himself was a member when he was younger, but now he has left the church and he's now drinking. He's now, this. Now there's a funeral. The very next Sunday, I'm arriving. In that funeral, I don't know what happened, because I had no part in it. We preached, we went to the graveyard, we came back. A neighbor of the lady who had just lost her son, the neighbor whispers, she says, "Who umfundisi wenu lo mfana?" Then she says, "Yeah, he's our new pastor." She says, "Oh, he spoke so well. We even forgot that we are in a funeral. Oh, I wish he can come to my house and just leave a word of prayer." Then she tells me, I said, "I'm there tomorrow. The very next day, Monday, I'm there." I don't even know. Church, I don't even know what am I going to do there. I have not held a Bible study in my life. I don't know what you say when you start. How do you greet? What do you do? Which topic must come first? I don't know. I have not done it. But then the following day, we go there. I ask a literature evangelist who was visiting. He's from another town in the same district. He was visiting. He says, no. He was from Emelo. He comes and he says, no, let's go. Then I say, but why? He says, no, today, don't teach today. Just go, greet, and then just one verse, and then you pray. And then you can then ask them after prayer to say, would you wish that we come back? That's how you do it. You don't just say, okay, we are studying now, Daniel 2. I had not done it. So then we go. He accompanies me, but I'm the one talking. He's just next to me here. He's giving me support. I thought the lady, this old lady, would not see me this time because I was in a suit on Sunday. Today I'm just in a t-shirt. And then when we get into the gate there, she sees us from the door there. She says, Mfundis, pastor. Then I said, oh, she remembers. Then we got in. We prayed. That's where I started. They said you can come back anytime, even if it's 5 times a week, it doesn't matter. So we then decided to meet every Monday. Monday, 5:30, 6 o'clock, we are starting. 7 o'clock, we are finishing. Dear friends, it took us about 6-7 months to touch almost every theme of the Bible. And now we were on the decision lessons. And then the old lady says, hey, my child, I'm too old now. I belong to the Zion Church somewhere. And I've been paying this funeral something. If I leave them, who will bury me? I'm afraid. But if my children want to go, they can go. Even my grandchildren, they can go. And then the man of the house, the father, is not a Christian. He's just smoking, staying at home, drinking a bit sometimes. Then he said, no, don't look at me. Look at them. Then I said, what do you say? Then I said, no, we are following the truth. The two ladies, they are my age mates. The two of them. I said, no, we are coming. We've heard the truth, we are following. Even the grandchildren, their children. Then there's one Sabbath, they came, all of them. I was teaching in the church afternoon. They said, Pastor, we want to say something. I had to stop the program. They stood up and said, brethren, we are here. We are joining this church. Amen. And then as they were talking, this one is my neighbor, but they didn't tell me. This one I went to school with from grade 1, but they didn't tell me anything. That one is my aunt. She didn't tell me that she comes here, Kanti, she has all this truth. I never knew. I thank God for a pastor who comes from far to come and reveal the truth to us. Today, we are part of the church. Amen. From that day on, everybody, Pastor, how did you convince them? Do we need to convince them? No. I just testified, I just witnessed about the truth that I know. It's the Holy Spirit who does the conviction, not me. I just share. And then the elder, Pastor, when you go to these Bible studies, can I join you? Then we were 2 now. Then the following week, the head deacon, can I also join? The following week, the women ministries leader. Hey, we were now 7. And we are going to a house where there is only 3 people. It's the husband, the wife, the child. So I said, no, we can't go as a big group like this in one house. I said, listen, I have a plan. Why don't we all wake up on Sunday morning? Let's go. There's a new area right here. New settlement, RDPs. Let's go there house to house. Because now we are 10 in one house. And these people are 4. I said, no. Then everybody joined. The whole church board joined. Dear friends, I'm saying it's not easy. The point is, it's not easy to sow. Because the Bible says in verse 5 and 6, we sow in tears. The tears are, you go to a person one Monday, it's an appointment. You find them, the Bible said, I forgot. Sorry, my boyfriend is here. And when he comes, hey, he doesn't want any disturbance. So please come next week. That's tears. I go back. In my heart, I'm a bit disturbed. How? Kanti, what? Why is this person agreeing to a Bible study and then they tell me, last minute, my boyfriend is here? What kind of a boyfriend is this who is so important more than the Bible? Then I leave. I come next week. Appointment. I went to another one. This lady, she stays next to the mission house. So the reason why we ended up agreeing on a Bible study is because I gave her a lift. I was going out of the mission, rushing to a church somewhere, but I'm going to pass through town. So she is late. She works in town. Then I stop. I give her a lift. On the road, because she does not know what to say to me, she just speaks. Tell me, but why do you people go to church on Saturday, not Sunday? I said, you want to know? Can we make an appointment? I'll come to your house. We sit down. Because the answer is too long. We will take it, bit by bit. She didn't plan that I'm going to respond that way. She was just making conversation. Then when I now go for the appointment, that's the lady who was saying, hey, Pastor, I had a husband, but he died. So now I have a boyfriend. The boyfriend stays in the hostel. But he comes once in a while. When he comes, no disturbance. So please go away, come back. Hi, Bo. That's sowing in tears. You just sow. But one day, it will be you who will be excited to say, this one did not promise even once. He was giving me excuses, running away, liquor, this and this. But today, you sowed, and today, the seed has germinated. Today, this person is the one who responded first. Those who were promising they were coming every day. Sorry, Pastor, we'll decide. And once people say, we will see. There's someone that is close to me who likes to say, I will see tomorrow. I will see, and tomorrow never comes. I will see. They eventually don't decide. Because you see, when the truth is clear now, and you say, I'll see tomorrow, can I go and think about it? You are making yourself to be hardened against the truth. If you can't say yes to the truth and it's clear to you, the Holy Spirit has convicted you, and you are still postponing, it means you are refusing. I'm afraid to go to a quotation by Ellen White. She says, when you refuse and the truth is clear, you are moving away from the truth. The truth remains there. You are moving away, until a time when the truth will still talk, but you will no longer hear it, because we have moved far away from it. And before we close today, I have to leave this challenge. Dwight L. Moody says, I can go to prison for you. I can go to death for you. But I refuse to go to heaven without you. I refuse. I wish we can adopt this motto of Dwight L. Moody and say, we can do all things for people, but we refuse to be saved alone one day in heaven, and they are remaining there. We need to start like the psalmist, to praise God for our own deliverance, and also pray to him for the deliverance of these who are still remaining in captivity. Dear friends, I'm calling on someone who says, Mfundis, hey, I'm challenged. I'm challenged by the words from the psalm there. Bringing in the sheaves when we were sowing in tears, but God turned our tears into joy by making the seed to germinate, and now we are reaping in joy. You want to go to heaven with your neighbor. You want to go to heaven with someone who is in Nokembak. You don't even know them right now. But because of today's decision, you want to go and form lasting friendships with the people there. And one day, you want to see them together with you in the clouds, finally in heaven, saved eternally forever. And you are saying, Mfundisi, I want to be part of the project. I want to go and be part of the plan, the preparation of the soul by visiting every social place there, whether it's a school or what. I want to go and visit every house in the section where I will be, to find interest of people who are saying, I want to enroll in VOP. I want to go there, Pastor, and be part of the planting to distribute literature. I want to be part of that. Every Sabbath afternoon, if the church goes, I want to be part of that. Every Wednesday evening, for a prayer meeting for someone who has a special need, I want to be part of it. I want to be part of the cultivation. In the morning, we got about 19, 20 people. But I want to join the 20 people and also be those who are going to give in Bible studies, instruct people. So I need those to stand already, those who were raising their hands in the morning. But I need more people to join them. And Pastor, I've been touched this morning. I want Please, to be a person of gratitude. I want to be always thankful and stop complaining. When I have so many things to thank God for, I want to stop complaining. I know the money I get is not enough because I also went to sign for a DSTV, which I don't need. But but I'm grateful for the things that God is able to give me. Fundis, help me. God help me. I want to be a prayerful person, a person who prays for the right things. Prays for the harvest. Prays for sowing. Prays for more people to be released from bondage, the bondage of sin. Is there anyone who wants to join those who raise their hands in the morning? I'm asking those who raise their hands to stand, and then I'm asking more to join them. I'm asking more to join them. Let's join, dear friends. Let's join, dear friends. Let us be sowing saints. Do you want to be a sowing saint? Oh, please stand and join these who are standing already. Oh, please stand and join those who are standing already. Do you want to sow like all others? May God bless us. You know what? I'm making a special appeal to the children. Children, I need you to stand also. You know why? Because this thing of going there means that children must also have a part in the plan. They must have a part in the plan. Right now, we need to be starting already with a branch Sabbath school of children, not of adults. Listen to this. Children, you send an adult here to go and gather children in that area. And they are given stories every morning on Sabbath for an hour, and then they go to play. But before they go to play, then we give them something, an orange or an apple or a soup if it's cold. That is the first thing, and it involves children. And I'm saying, may God bless everybody who is responding to this. I think there's one more who must stand. There's one more. They're fighting. They want, but they don't want because they are thinking, what's going to happen with my time for soccer, with my TV? Please, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. If you invest your time in sowing as a saint, God will reward you with joy. Exuberant joy. Hey, I don't know how to put this. Excessive. Joy unspeakable. Full of glory. Let's pray now. Father in heaven, thank you so much for today. Thank you for the message today, which says we need to be turned from being mere believers into being sowing saints. And Father, thank you for showing us the way that before we can be sowing saints, we need to appreciate every day the gift that you gave us, the gift called Jesus Christ. We need to appreciate that we were delivered. You took our sins from the miry clay, and you did exactly that. Oh Lord, we want to sing as the songwriter who says, the angels in heaven rejoice when one sinner comes back home who has been lost. Oh Father, we are also thankful for the lesson that we need to be prayerful people who pray for serious stuff, for the salvation of others. Not just end with me, my things. Give me this, give me that. Oh Father, then finally we can, from today, by your help, be sowing saints who may sow right now in tears because it's tough for people to sit down and listen to the word. They will give you all sorts of excuses. They are so busy. But when you check the things that they are busy with, it's things that are fleeting. Soccer, entertainment, and all these other things, which will never ensure that they are saved one day. Oh, Father, help us. Give us the wisdom to be sowers that are intelligent, given wisdom by heaven. We go and infiltrate that place. I'm praying in a special way for those who are standing. The ones that had raised their hands in the morning, I'm also praying for the ones who are additional at this time. This band of Gideon. I'm praying for it, Father. Give us the tips that you need to give us and make us to learn many other tips while in the field, because evangelism does not wait for someone to graduate. Evangelism, God teaches someone in the field what to do and what to say after when they meet different situations. Oh, Father, I'm praying for Kempton Park Central Church. Bless them as they commit to this project. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
What does the church say? Amen. I'm inspired. I'm ready, Pastor. I'm ready. We will take our hymnals and we'll turn to number 79. Far and near the fields are teeming. May we stand up as we sing?
Amasimu to Amasimu alindile aklope namabele egutesewa bonile sekahangene sihe kosiyo kuvu na izwangu we ongasisa patume avo kuvu na ye ngagajuli chobo patumele gusenena tamba mabangeni no maselesho nilangama pavunisi nyanda kosiyo kuvu na yizwangu wewe tonga zezwa batume abo guvu nanye ngagajuli shobo we no tunywayo inkosefu nisisambabele pegezu rini sipelowo tolumpuso kulu kosiyo batume abo kuvunane gagatuli.
May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, the fellowship of the Holy Spirit rest and abide with all of us to be sowing saints until Christ comes. Amen.